The main focus of today's talk is necessary steps in spiritual growth. And so by necessary, I mean just the things you need to do, no extraneous ideas or baggage or philosophy, just the basics. All right. And if you would follow these things, works great. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is when I first got involved in meditation and yoga practice, Mr. Davis would always tell me to get more rest. I would tell him I want to meditate, a couple hours a day, and he would say, just get more rest. He never said meditate 3 or 4 hours. He said get more rest. And it never made sense to me. And just recently it started to make sense to me because I realized that most people can't really meditate well because they've not had enough rest. They're usually nodding off, or they go into daydreaming, or they can't quite think straight, or they can't keep their awareness in one spot because they're tired. Okay. And what brought this to my attention was a lot of people were asking me, how do you see the inner light? Like when you're meditating, how do you see the inner light? Or how do you hear the Om vibration? Or how do you experience these experiences you're supposed to have when you're meditating? And the thing I noticed was that the only time I've ever really truly experienced these things, when I have been in a state of meditation where I was completely and totally relaxed, my body was calm, my mind was calm, but I was alert and awake. If you're trying to meditate and go into a deeper state, and you need to have your body relaxed, if you're not well rested, that relaxation response is going to trigger a sleep response. But if you're well rested and not tired, then you're able to just simply sit there and be in this relaxed state while still being present, aware of what's going on. Okay. So the first step is with your meditation practice, before you start trying to contemplate the infinite consciousness and the inner light and your relationship to God, you have to make sure that you're well rested. And that might mean taking a nap during the day, or it might mean going to sleep earlier. Whatever it is, you need to make sure you're well rested. Once you've got this under control, then what you need to take into consideration is your life itself. Okay? Because anytime you want to experience something or achieve something in life, you have to be able to focus on it without distraction. So I have a friend who's trying to pass, or who's taking a test, the bar to become a lawyer. And one of the things she's realizing is that she has to be really focused on studying all these manuals so that when she takes a test that she can pass. So she's had to cut out some things in her life, some activities, some TV shows, some whatever it might be, so that she can focus on these sorts of things. If you want to be a good musician, it's the same thing. You have to set aside time every day to practice. Otherwise, you're always going to be doing something else and you're never going to get around to practicing. If you want to be able to meditate well, think about the things that come into your mind when you're meditating. Or if you're sitting down to meditate and you're thinking about an interaction that you've had with a certain person that's causing you some grief or some difficulty. If you're thinking about all these things when you sit down to meditate, that's a key indication that these might be things that you need to cut out of your life, or at least alter a little bit, so that you can meditate clearly and you can stay where you are, focused to where you want to be, without these distractions. All right, so when you meditate, pay attention to what is going through your mind. Pay attention to the daily experiences which are going through your mind, and it may be those very things that you have to change in some way. All right. So for me, I like to read later on at night, but I also like to meditate later on at night, and I also like to watch certain TV shows later on at night. And what I found is that if I did that, one, when I meditated, I'd be thinking about the things I just read or the things I just watched. And then that got in the way of the process. However, I found that if I read these things earlier in the morning, like say right when I got up, I made that my time to read my novel, whatever it might be, it didn't bother my meditations later at night because there was enough time in between for processing to occur. So I wasn't trying to process it in my meditation practice. Okay. So with life, you want to make sure that you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you've got an intention set. And if you have an intention set, you will know those things which are not serving your purpose to waking up. Okay, and this goes back to another aspect of the process of what is your intention with spiritual growth. And we all start somewhere, right? So is your intention to escape from oppressive conditions or to get over an emotional difficulty? Is your intention to experience a glorified human state? You read all these books about all these saints and sages with superior powers and mystical abilities and all these sorts of things. Is that what you want? All right? Or are you meditating, are you practicing spiritual growth processes because you want to be at peace all the time? Okay. Now, all these other yogis and these saints and these sages, they manifested these powers. One, because they practiced manifesting these powers. Two, when you are clear and at peace and you are attuned with the infinite consciousness and the divine and God, if you need to have a miraculous power, you will. All right. If you don't need to have a miraculous power, you won't. So again, this comes down to the idea of, are you doing this for you because you want to be something special? You want to move from your life now as an egocentric being into this other egocentric being, which just happens to be a spiritual egocentric being. Okay, that's really the same thing. It's just now that you've got a different definition of yourself, and this is about going beyond definition. So think about your intention. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it because you want to experience a glorified human state, or are you doing this because you want to be at peace inside and you want to be more effective in the world, and when you're around people, you're appropriate and loving and kind if you need to be, or if you're around people that you need to be strong and strong-willed with, you can be that as well. Because what we have to remember is that to be appropriate, to be in tune with the infinite consciousness, is to interact in the situations that you're in based on what's called for. So, for example, when you're dealing with a child, is it always appropriate to give the child what the child wants all the time? No. Sometimes you have to say no, and sometimes you have to say, go to your room, or however you do it. I'm not a parent. I remember being a kid. and that is appropriate because it is laying down guidelines so that this kid can live a healthy and productive life without burning his hand off or blowing up the garage or whatever he might be up to. Okay. So remember, appropriateness isn't always being kind and nice. Sometimes it's being just direct and saying stop or whatever it might be. All right.